If you think the muscle car era was all about bright paint, loud graphics, and over-the-top noise, then you've never faced the Buick Grand National. This machine doesn't shine, it stalks. It doesn't chase attention, it commands fear. The 1984 Buick Grand National is more than a muscle car, it is a dark presence on wheels, a machine that built its legend not through flash, but through pure intimidation. While other cars of the 80s tried to grab attention with bold stripes, neon colors, and oversized spoilers, the Grand National stepped onto the streets dressed in all black, silent, confident, and ready to dominate. Everything about this car speaks in a tone that is low, controlled, and dangerously calm. The moment you see its squared-off edges, the deep black paint, and that shadow-like stance, you instantly understand, this car was never designed to blend in. It was designed to take over. Under the hood, the turbocharged 3.8-liter V6 challenged the rules of its time. Back then, people believed true muscle required a massive V8. But the Grand National didn't care about expectations. It didn't need 8 cylinders to embarrass everything that lined up next to it. The moment the turbo spooled and the boost kicked in, the car lunged forward with a surge of power that felt almost violent. Drivers would swear the car wasn't accelerating, it was attacking the road. Inside, nothing felt exaggerated. No unnecessary styling, no bright colors. Just a focused, driver-centered cabin that made you feel like you were piloting something covert. Every gauge, every dial, every surface added to the personality of the car, minimalistic, stealthy, and purposeful. It wasn't trying to impress you with luxury. It was preparing you for battle. At night, the Grand National transformed. Streetlights didn't reflect off its paint, they slid across it like it was absorbing the light. The car didn't drive by, it passed like a shadow, leaving a trail of tension behind. Even standing still, it gave off the kind of energy that made people take a step back. Where most muscle cars roar to show power, the Grand National does something different. It growls, low and threatening, like it's warning the pavement before it touches it. With every press of the throttle, the message is clear: this isn't a showpiece. This is a weapon. The 1984 model became the foundation for the legend that followed: the GN models, the GNX, and the era of dark, turbocharged dominance that still fascinates enthusiasts today. Even now, decades later, people don't talk about the Grand National as a cool old car. They talk about it like it's a myth you encounter, not just a machine you drive. It's timeless not because of bright paint or dramatic shapes, but because of the attitude it carries: silent confidence, raw power, and an unshakable identity. It doesn't make you feel like a hero. It makes you feel like the villain of the story, the one everyone fears, the one nobody wants to race. The 1984 Buick Grand National isn't here to be liked. It's here to be remembered. A dark legend, built to dominate. The 1980 Pontiac Firebird Trans Am stands as one of the most recognizable and attitude-filled machines of its era, a car that didn't just arrive on the road, but exploded onto it with style, confidence, and unmistakable personality. Where other muscle cars of the time tried to look tough, the Trans Am was tough the moment you laid eyes on it. Its long, sharp-edged hood, wide stance, and signature screaming eagle attitude gave it a presence that could dominate a parking lot before the engine even started. The body lines were aggressive but elegant, giving the car a look that blended classic American muscle with a bold, almost rebellious spirit. Every inch of the Trans Am was designed to challenge the world around it, from the pointed nose to the flared fenders that made it look ready to leap forward at any second. Even as the late 70s and early 80s brought tighter restrictions on engines, Pontiac refused to let the Firebird's tone break. The 1980 Trans Am used creativity instead of brute force, relying on a turbocharged V8 that delivered a unique and powerful experience. The engine didn't roar like older muscle cars, it built tension, rising in boost with a deep, controlled growl that felt like the calm before a storm. When the turbo kicked in, the car delivered a punch that was smoother at low speeds but surprisingly eager when opened up. What made the Trans Am truly iconic wasn't just its speed, it was the way it made the driver feel. Sitting behind the wheel, you weren't simply driving, you were stepping into a character. The dashboard tilted toward the driver, packed with gauges that made you feel like a pilot in a cockpit. Everything from the steering wheel design to the angled center console gave the interior a sporty, performance-driven vibe. Even today, collectors talk about how the Trans Am's cabin created an atmosphere not luxurious, but powerful and confident, as if the car was daring you to take control. On the road, the Trans Am didn't blend into traffic. It demanded attention. Its low profile, wide body, and unmistakable stance made it one of the most visually aggressive cars of its time. Streetlights highlighted its curves, and the pop-up headlights gave it a sharp, predatory look when they lifted at night. Whether parked or in motion, the Trans Am radiated charisma. The handling was another part of its charm. The car felt planted, stable, and eager to carve through open roads. Even if it wasn't the fastest muscle car ever built, it had something many others didn't balance. It was a rare mix of performance and attitude, engineered to make every drive feel more dramatic than the last. The suspension, the steering, and the weight distribution all worked together to give the driver a sense of connection with the road. Decades later, the 1980 Trans Am is still treated as a symbol not just of muscle, but of identity. It represents an era when cars had personalities, when designers took risks, and when drivers wanted machines that matched their attitude. It stands out in memory because it wasn't just built to perform, it was built to express something bold, loud, and unforgettable. The Firebird Trans Am isn't remembered for being perfect. It's remembered for being legendary, a car with presence, attitude, and a spirit that refuses to fade. The AMC Javelin AMX is one of those rare machines that carried the soul of American muscle while standing completely apart from the crowd. Where the big three automakers chased horsepower wars with size and noise, the Javelin AMX carved its own identity, bold, dramatic, and unmistakably fearless. It wasn't built to follow trends. It was built to challenge everything around it. The first thing you notice about the Javelin AMX is its shape. Long, deep curves paired with sharp, athletic lines give it a presence that feels both artistic and aggressive. The extended nose, the sculpted body sides, and the muscular tail end create a silhouette that looks like it's already in motion even when the car is standing still. This was a design that didn't just attempt to stand out, it demanded to be noticed. Under the hood, the AMX carried engines that didn't worry about subtlety. AMC poured raw energy into the heart of this machine, giving it the kind of punch that could surprise even the proudest V8 owners. It didn't matter whether you were rolling with a 360 or the more powerful options, the Javelin AMX delivered power in a way that felt unrefined, untamed, and absolutely thrilling. The throttle response had a certain attitude to it, as if the car was more interested in challenging the road than simply driving on it. The interior added to the experience with its wide, driver-focused dashboard and deep set gauges that made you feel like you were stepping into something serious. It wasn't polished like luxury cars of the era. It wasn't meant to be. It had a raw, mechanical feel, almost like a performance machine stripped down to its essentials. Sitting inside a Javelin AMX wasn't about comfort. It was about connection. You felt every vibration, every shift, every rumble beneath your feet. But what truly sets the AMC Javelin AMX apart is its personality on the road. This car didn't glide, it attacked. The steering felt direct, the body leaned with intention, and the engine responded with an eagerness that made every stretch of pavement feel personal. Even at moderate speeds, the AMX carried a sense of drama. Every downshift, every burst of acceleration, and every curve sent a reminder that this car wasn't built for calm drivers. It was built for those who want to feel the machine. The Javelin AMX also had a rebellious charm. It represented a company fighting against industry giants, yet still producing a car that could stand toe-to-toe with icons like the Mustang, Camaro, and Challenger. And despite being the underdog, it created an identity so strong that it still commands respect today. Collectors don't admire the AMX because it was common. They admire it because it was different, because it dared to be bold in a world where sameness was easier. When you see a Javelin AMX today, you don't just see a classic muscle car. You see attitude, risk-taking, and raw American spirit. You see a machine that refused to blend in or play it safe. You see something rare, a car that looked like artwork but fought like a street warrior. The AMC Javelin AMX isn't remembered because it won the horsepower war. It's remembered because it had the heart of a fighter, the soul of an underdog, and the kind of presence that never fades. The Ford Torino GT is one of those machines that captures the true heartbeat of classic American muscle, bold, commanding, and unapologetically powerful. It wasn't designed to whisper its presence. It was engineered to announce it with authority. The moment you see a Torino GT, you instantly feel the charisma it carries: long body lines, wide shoulders, and a stance that tells you this car wasn't meant to simply exist on the road, it was meant to rule it. Its design is unmistakable. The long hood stretches forward with purpose, balanced by a fastback-style rear that adds both elegance and aggression. The grille sits wide and intimidating, giving the Torino the look of a machine that's prepared for every challenge. Whether painted in bright factory colors or deep, dark tones, the GT always carries an aura of power. It looks like it was pulled straight out of a time when cars weren't just transportation, they were expressions of identity. Under the hood, the Torino GT didn't play games. Depending on the setup, you could find everything from strong small-block V8s to massive big-block engines capable of delivering the kind of torque that pinned drivers back into their seats. The way the Torino responded to the throttle wasn't subtle, it was instant. Press the pedal, and the engine answered with raw muscle, sending a deep and confident roar through the exhaust. This wasn't refined European performance. This was American strength, straightforward, loud, and exhilarating. On the road, the Torino GT carried itself like a heavyweight fighter. It wasn't light, and it didn't pretend to be. Instead, it used its weight to create stability, grip, and presence. At cruising speeds, the car felt smooth and controlled, almost calm in its movement. But the moment you pushed it, the GT came alive, leaning into curves with a surprising balance and surging forward with power that felt endless. The combination of engine strength and body dynamics made the Torino an experience, a true muscle car in every sense. Inside, the Torino GT blended comfort with performance attitude. The cabin had a simple, driver-focused layout, with large gauges, wide seating, and a dashboard that wrapped gently toward the driver. It wasn't flashy, but it didn't need to be. This interior gave the feeling of sitting in a confident, capable car, something solid, something serious. The steering feel, the rumble through the floor, the sweeping view over the long hood, everything reminded you that you were piloting a machine built for power. The Torino GT also became a cultural icon not just because of its speed, but because of the character it carried. It represented an era when Ford dared to compete directly with the strongest muscle cars of the time. And instead of copying the competition, the Torino carved its own path. It carried a personality that mixed aggression with elegance, a rare combination for a big, powerful American machine. Even decades later, the Torino GT stands out in any lineup of muscle cars. It has a presence that refuses to fade. Enthusiasts admire it not only for its engineering but for the feeling it creates, the feeling of commanding the road, of controlling a beast that is powerful yet graceful, aggressive yet stylish. The Ford Torino GT isn't just remembered as another muscle car. It's remembered as a symbol of strength, a statement of power, and one of the boldest machines ever to carry the Ford badge. The Oldsmobile 442 is one of the purest expressions of American muscle, a car that didn't just carry power, but carried pride. It represents a time when strength wasn't measured only in horsepower, but in attitude, engineering, and presence. The moment you see a 442, you understand why it became a legend. It doesn't scream for attention, it earns it. Visually, the 442 strikes a perfect balance between aggression and sophistication. Its wide stance, sculpted fenders, and bold front grille give it the look of a heavyweight champion dressed in a tailored suit. The long hood stretches out with authority, while the rear end sits muscular and confident, hinting at the performance hidden underneath. Even standing still, the 442 carries itself like a machine that knows exactly what it is: powerful, refined, and absolutely fearless. What set the 442 apart wasn't just its styling, it was the heart beating under the hood. Early models stayed true to the name, four-barrel carburetor, four-speed manual, and dual exhausts, creating a combination that delivered raw performance without hesitation. Later versions expanded on this formula with big block engines that produced the kind of torque that gave drivers a rush the moment their foot touched the pedal. The 442 didn't roar politely, it thundered with confidence, shaking the ground with every beat of its exhaust. On the road, the Oldsmobile 442 offered something unique, a blend of brutal muscle and smooth composure. While many muscle cars of the era felt wild and untamed, the 442 delivered its power with precision and control. Pressing the throttle gave you that instant surge of acceleration, but the car stayed planted, stable, and ready. The suspension tuning gave it a distinct advantage. It wasn't just fast in a straight line, it could handle curves with authority, making it feel more refined than its competitors. The interior added another dimension to the 442's identity. Wide bucket seats, deep dashboards, and chrome-accented gauges created an environment that balanced comfort with performance. It felt like a cockpit built for someone who loves speed but still wants the experience to feel polished. The driving position, the thick steering wheel, and the view over the long muscular hood all contributed to a sense of command. Behind the wheel of a 442, you didn't just feel like a driver, you felt like the leader of the road. But the real magic of the Oldsmobile 442 lies in its personality. It wasn't trying to be the loudest or the wildest muscle car. It wasn't built only for straight-line bragging rights. It was built to deliver a complete performance experience: power, control, sound, style, and presence, all working together. It became a muscle car that even non-car enthusiasts respected the moment they saw it. The 442 also carries the legacy of Oldsmobile's determination to stand out against fierce competition. Instead of copying trends, Oldsmobile created a car that felt different, more mature, more balanced, yet still able to unleash insane amounts of power when called upon. That dual character is what made the 442 iconic. Today, the Oldsmobile 442 remains one of the most admired classics from the golden age of muscle. Its combination of beauty and brute force, elegance and aggression, refinement and raw power makes it unforgettable. Enthusiasts value it not just as a piece of history, but as a symbol of what muscle cars once stood for: pure strength, authentic engineering, and an identity that refuses to fade. The Oldsmobile 442 isn't just a car. It's a legacy: bold, powerful, and forever respected on the streets and in the hearts of car lovers.